The lunch rush at Le Ciel was always hectic, but today felt particularly chaotic. Lily Chen balanced 3 plates of seared salmon along her left arm, while deftly navigating between tables of New York's wealthiest patrons. A stock market executive snapped his fingers for her attention just as she set down the last plate. "Miss, this salmon is overcooked," he said without looking up from his phone. Lily nodded politely. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll have the kitchen prepare a new one right away." She hurried back toward the kitchen, adding the complaint to her mental checklist. As she pushed through the swinging doors, the head chef looked up with raised eyebrows. "Table 14 says the salmon is overcooked," Lily explained, already grabbing a water pitcher to refill glasses at her other tables. "That man sends back his food every single time," the chef grumbled, but began preparing a new dish anyway. Such was life at one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Lily had worked at Le Ciel for almost 3 years now, and she knew the routine well. The wealthy customers expected perfection, and it was her job to provide it with a smile, no matter how tired her feet were or how rude the patrons might be. What none of them knew, not the customers with their designer clothes, not her coworkers with their industry gossip, not even her boss who barely remembered her name despite her years of service, was that Lily had a secret life beyond these walls. At 10:30 that night, long after her double shift had ended, Lily unlocked the door to her tiny Brooklyn apartment. The space was barely 400 square feet, with a kitchenette in one corner and a bathroom so small she could hardly turn around in it. But dominating the main room, leaving barely enough space for a small bed and dresser, stood her most prized possession, a second-hand upright piano. She set down her bag and kicked off her shoes, her feet aching from standing for 12 hours. Any reasonable person would have collapsed into bed after such a day. Instead, Lily sat down at the piano bench, her posture immediately transforming. She straightened her back, relaxed her shoulders, and placed her hands on the keys. The restaurant, the demanding customers, the tiny apartment, all of it faded away. For the next 3 hours, she played. Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, the classical masters filled her tiny apartment. Her fingers danced across the keys with a precision and passion that would have shocked anyone who knew her only as the quiet, efficient waitress from Le Ciel Music had been Lily's first love since she was 5 years old. Growing up, her grandmother had an old piano in the living room of their small house in Ohio. It wasn't fancy, some keys stuck and it needed tuning. But to little Lily, it might as well have been a grand piano on a concert stage. Her grandmother had taught piano lessons to neighborhood kids to earn extra money, and Lily would sit and watch, soaking up everything. By the time she was 7, she could play pieces that teenagers struggled with. By 12, her grandmother couldn't teach her anymore. Lily had surpassed her. "You have a gift," her grandmother would say, eyes shining with pride. A true gift, but gifts don't pay the bills. When Lily's grandmother passed away during her senior year of high school, the reality of life hit hard. College scholarships covered some costs, but not enough. She'd worked her way through 3 years at the music school, taking on more and more shifts at restaurants until the balance tipped. School became part-time, then paused altogether. Just until I save enough, she told herself. That was 2 years ago. Now, at 25, Lily lived in 2 completely separate worlds. By day, she was invisible, just another server bringing food and taking orders. By night, in her tiny apartment, she was everything she dreamed of being. The alarm on her phone buzzed, bringing her back to reality. 2 a.m. already. She had another double shift tomorrow, starting at 11 dar. Reluctantly, she closed the piano lid and stretched her fingers. On her bed, Lily pulled out her laptop and opened a browser. Juilliard School of Music application deadline, she typed. The results showed she had exactly 3 weeks to submit her audition recording. This would be her 3rd time applying. The first 2 attempts had earned her spots on the wait list, but no scholarship offer. Without financial help, acceptance alone was meaningless. 3rd time's the charm, she whispered to herself, though the confidence in her voice had worn thin. Morning came too quickly. Lily's routine was down to a science. Shower, simple breakfast, hair pulled back in a neat bun, pressed uniform, and out the door by 10:15 to catch the subway to Manhattan. Le Ciel was quieter during the day setup, before the lunch crowd arrived. Lily liked this time when she could prepare her section without the chaos. She folded cloth napkins into perfect triangles, aligned silverware with precision, and polished, already spotless glasses. "You always make the rest of us look bad," joked Thomas, another server who was haphazardly arranging his own station. Lily smiled. "Force of habit. My grandmother would inspect my piano practice the same way. Attention to detail separates good from great, she always said. You play piano?" Thomas asked, sounding genuinely surprised. "I've worked with you for what, 8 months? How did I not know this?" Lily shrugged. "It never came up. Are you any good?" Before she could answer, their manager clapped his hands for the pre-service meeting. "Big day today, people. We have the Crawfords' anniversary party in the private room at Wander, and Mr. Whitman is bringing in some potential investors at 2 Salar. Lily, I'm putting you on the Whitman table. He specifically asked for you." Lily nodded, though inwardly she groaned. Mr. Whitman was a regular who always ran his servers ragged with special requests and modifications. But he tipped well, and she needed every dollar for her Juilliard application fee. By 3 p.m., the restaurant was at full capacity. Lily moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her mind half on her work and half on the Debussy piece she was perfecting for her audition recording. Sometimes she played the notes in her head while waiting for the kitchen to prepare orders, her fingers subtly moving at her sides. "What are you doing with your hands?" The question came from a young girl, maybe 10 years old, sitting at a table with her parents. Wealthy types, judging by the mother's jewelry and father's watch. The child was staring curiously at Lily's unconsciously moving fingers. Caught off guard, Lily blushed. "Oh, I was just thinking about piano music. You play piano?" the girl asked, her eyes lighting up. "Me too. I'm learning for Elise, but it's really hard." "That's a beautiful piece," Lily said, smiling genuinely for the first time that day. "The tricky part is getting the rhythm right in the middle section." "Exactly." The girl looked at Lily with newfound respect. "Do you play professionally?" The mother cut in before Lily could answer. "Honey, don't bother the waitress with personal questions. She's busy working." "It's no bother," Lily said quickly. But the mother had already turned away, clearly dismissing both the conversation and Lily herself. "Sorry," the girl mouthed. Lily gave her a small wink before moving on to her next table, the brief connection fading as quickly as it had formed. It was a familiar feeling, being seen for a moment, then becoming invisible again. That evening, during the dinner service, Lily overheard snippets of conversation from a table of conservatory donors as she refilled their water glasses. "The benefit concert next month is still missing a standout. Performance," an older gentleman was saying. "The student showcase pieces are fine, but we need something truly impressive to loosen the checkbooks." "What about that pianist from last year's event? The one who did the Rachmaninoff piece?" his companion suggested. "Signed with the Boston Symphony. Unavailable." Lily moved away before they noticed her listening, but her mind raced. A benefit concert for the conservatory meant influential people in the music world would attend. People who might remember her when she applied for scholarships, who might see beyond the waitress uniform to the musician underneath. But how would someone like her ever get on the program for such an event? People in her world, servers, retail workers, everyday strivers, didn't mix with the artistic elite except to bring them their food or ring up their purchases. That night, after her shift, Lily stayed up until 3 a.m. practicing with more intensity than usual. Her fingers flew across the keys, drawing emotion from the piano that seemed to fill every corner of her small apartment. When she finally stopped, her hands were sore and her eyes heavy with exhaustion. But her mind was made up. She would find a way to be heard. The next morning, moving a bit slower from lack of sleep, Lily stood at her dresser and looked at herself in the small mirror. Same dark hair, same tired eyes, same person she'd always been. Yet something had shifted inside. Years of serving people who looked through her rather than at her. Years of putting her dream on hold, just until things got better. Something had to change. "No more waiting," she whispered to her reflection. The path forward wasn't clear yet, but for the first time in years, Lily felt a spark of possibility that had nothing to do with tips or wages or surviving another day. She just needed one chance, one moment to show what she could really do. And somehow she was going to find it. 2 weeks had passed since Lily made her silent promise to find a way to be heard. The Juilliard application deadline was now just days away, and she still hadn't recorded her audition pieces. Between double shifts at Le Ciel and exhaustion that seemed to seep deeper into her bones each day, finding the energy, let alone a proper recording space, felt almost impossible. Today was supposed to be her day off, her chance to finally record. She'd planned to use a practice room at her old community college where a former teacher had agreed to let her in, but at 5:30 a.m. her phone buzzed with a text from her manager. "Vanessa has food poisoning. Need you to cover lunch shift. Sorry." Lily stared at the ceiling of her tiny apartment, the familiar weight of disappointment settling over her. One more day lost, one day closer to the deadline. She texted back a simple "okay" and closed her eyes for a few more precious minutes before the day began. By noon, Le Ciel was bustling with its usual crowd of business executives and old money regulars. Lily moved through her section on autopilot, taking orders, delivering food, smiling the practice smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Excuse me," a woman at table 12 said, stopping Lily as she cleared away appetizer plates. "Aren't you the server who knows piano? My daughter spoke with you a couple weeks ago." Lily looked more carefully at the woman, recognizing her as the mother who had cut off their conversation before. The young girl sat beside her, brightening when Lily met her eyes. "Yes, that was me," Lily said. Slightly surprised, the woman remembered. "She hasn't stopped talking about it," the woman said, her tone warmer than during their first encounter. "Apparently she's been practicing that middle section you mentioned in Fur-Elise, and it's actually improving." "That's wonderful," Lily replied, genuinely pleased. The girl spoke up. "I wanted to show you." She mimicked playing the piano on the tablecloth. "See? I'm getting the rhythm right now." Lily couldn't help but smile. "That's perfect. You've got it exactly." "My daughter's teacher was impressed," the woman continued. He asked who had given her the advice. When she said the waitress at Le Ciel, well, she laughed lightly. "It sounded strange, but clearly you know what you're talking about." A throat cleared behind them. Mr. Whitman, the demanding regular, was trying to catch Lily's attention from the next table over. "I should get back to work," Lily said apologetically. "Of course." The woman nodded, then added, "I'm Diane Reynolds, by the way. This is my daughter Zoe. Nice to officially meet you both. I'm Lily." As she hurried to Mr. Whitman's table, she didn't have time to wonder about the unusual interaction. The lunch service was one of the busiest they'd had in months, and by the time it ended at 3:30, Lily's feet ached and her hope of recording today had completely vanished. She'd have to stay for dinner service now, which meant another day gone. "Lily," her manager called as she restocked napkins for the evening. "There's someone asking for you in the lobby." Confused, Lily made her way to the front. Diane Reynolds stood there, this time without her daughter. "Mrs. Reynolds?" "Please call me Diane," the woman said. "Do you have a minute?" They sat in the empty bar area. Up close, Lily noticed the woman's designer watch and the quality of her cashmere sweater. Definitely wealthy, but there was a warmth to her that many of Le Ciel's patrons lacked. "I hope you don't mind my asking, but my husband and I are curious about your background in music," Diane said. "You clearly have training." Lily hesitated, unsure why this woman was interested. "I studied piano most of my life. I was at Mannes College of Music for 3 years, but had to pause to work full-time. And now, I practice when I can. I'm actually applying to Juilliard, though the deadline's coming up fast." Lily wasn't sure why she was sharing this with a customer, but something about Diane's genuine interest made it easy to talk. "As a performance major?" Lily nodded. "It's my 3rd time applying. The recordings are due next week." Diane tilted her head. "You said recordings. You haven't submitted them yet?" "No, Lily looked down at her hands. "Finding the right piano and recording equipment has been challenging. I was supposed to record today, but got called in to work." "I see." Diane was quiet for a moment, then reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "My husband is Robert Reynolds. He sits on the board at Lincoln Center." Lily's eyes widened slightly. "More relevantly," Diane continued, "we have a Steinway grand piano at home that's barely used these days. Zoe practices on the smaller one in her room." She handed Lily the card. "If you need a place to record, you're welcome to use ours. We also have decent recording equipment from when Robert used to record his clarinet performances." Lily stared at the card in disbelief. "That's incredibly kind, but I couldn't—" "It's selfish, really," Diane interrupted with a small smile. "Zoe's been more excited about piano in the last 2 weeks than in the 2 years she's been taking lessons." Whatever you said made quite an impression. Consider it a thank you. Before Lily could respond, her manager appeared. Sorry to interrupt, but the dinner prep meeting is starting. Of course, Diane stood. Think about it, Lily. My cell number is on the back of the card. We're in the city most weekends. The rest of Lily's shift passed in a blur. She kept touching the business card in her apron pocket, afraid it might disappear if she didn't check on it periodically. Was this really happening? The Reynolds had a Steinway, probably worth more than she'd earn in 5 years, and they were offering to let her use it. By the time she got home that night, exhaustion had given way to a nervous energy. She sat at her upright piano but couldn't focus. Her fingers kept missing notes she normally played perfectly. After 30 frustrating minutes, she stopped and pulled out Diane's card again. The address on the front was on the Upper East Side, of course. The Reynolds probably lived in one of those beautiful pre-war buildings with a doorman and marble lobby. People like that didn't typically invite restaurant servers into their homes. But what choice did she have? The community college practice rooms had terrible pianos, and her upright at home, while decent, wasn't the quality needed for a Juilliard audition recording. This could be her only real chance. Taking a deep breath, Lily picked up her phone and sent a text to the number on the back of the card. This is Lily from Le Ciel. Thank you again for your generous offer. If it's still open, I would be very grateful to use your piano for my recording. She didn't expect a response until morning, so she jumped when her phone pinged just 2 minutes later. Wonderful. We're home all day tomorrow. Would 2 p.m. work? Tomorrow was Sunday. She had a dinner shift, but it didn't start until 5 low. It could work. Her heart racing, she texted back. 2 p.m. would be perfect. Thank you so much. The next day, Lily stood outside an elegant building on 72nd Street, her sheet music tucked into a folder under her arm. She'd worn her nicest clothes, black pants and a simple blue blouse, but still felt underdressed as the doorman eyed her. I'm here to see the Reynolds, she explained. After a phone call to confirm, he directed her to the elevators. Penthouse B. Of course it was a penthouse. Diane opened the door with a warm smile. Lily, come in. Zoe's been watching for you from the window for the last hour. The apartment was exactly as grand as Lily had imagined. High ceilings, art-covered walls, and windows overlooking Central Park. But what took her breath away was the piano. A glossy black Steinway grand sat in a corner of the living room near the windows, sunlight gleaming off its perfect surface. It's beautiful, Lily whispered. It was Robert's mother's, Diane explained. She was quite accomplished. Robert keeps it tuned regularly, even though none of us play it much anymore. Zoe appeared from another room. You came. Can I watch you play, please? Let's let Lily get comfortable first, Diane said. Robert set up the recording equipment earlier. He had to step out for a meeting, but he showed me how everything works. For the next half hour, Lily familiarized herself with the piano, playing scales and short exercises. It responded to her touch like a living thing, the notes ringing out with a clarity her old upright could never produce. The action was perfect, not too light, not too heavy. That already sounds amazing, Zoe said, watching from a chair nearby. And you're just playing scales. Lily smiled. A good piano makes all the difference. When she felt ready, Diane set up the recording equipment, a professional-looking microphone connected to a laptop. We can do as many takes as you need, she assured Lily. Taking a deep breath, Lily positioned herself at the piano. She'd selected 3 pieces for her audition: Bach's Prelude and Fugue in G minor, Chopin's Ballade No. 1, and Debussy's Reflets dans l'eau. She'd start with the Bach. As her fingers touched the keys, the familiar feeling washed over her. That sense of disappearing into the music, of becoming nothing but a conduit for sound and emotion. She forgot about the expensive apartment, about Diane and Zoe watching, about the years of serving wealthy people who never saw her. There was only Bach's intricate patterns, the mathematical precision giving way to something transcendent. When the last notes faded, she opened her eyes to see Zoe staring at her, mouth slightly open. That was, the girl began, but seemed at a loss for words. Extraordinary, Diane finished. Truly extraordinary. For the next hour, Lily recorded and re-recorded her pieces, perfecting each take. On her final run through the Debussy, the apartment door opened and a tall man in a suit entered. He stopped, listening, not wanting to interrupt. When Lily finished, he set down his briefcase and applauded. Robert, Diane said, "This is Lily." "That was Debussy, wasn't it?" he asked, approaching with an extended hand. "Beautifully played. I can see why Diane was so impressed." "Thank you," Lily said, suddenly self-conscious. "And thank you both for letting me use your piano. It's made all the difference." "From what I just heard, that piano is lucky to have you playing it," Robert said. "It's been sitting here for years with no one doing it justice." They spent the next hour reviewing the recordings, selecting the best takes. Robert, who knew more about the technical aspects, helped edit them into a polished final product. "There," he said finally, transferring the files to a USB drive. "Juilliard would be lucky to have you." As Lily prepared to leave for her dinner shift, Diane walked her to the door. "We're having a small gathering next weekend," she said. "Just a few friends for dinner. Some of them are involved with the music program at Juilliard." She paused. "Would you consider playing something for them?" Lily froze. "You mean perform? For Juilliard faculty?" "Just one or two. Informally," Diane assured her. "No pressure. But it couldn't hurt to make the connection before they hear your recording, could it?" A mixture of terror and hope flooded through Lily. Yes, I'd be honored." As she rode the subway downtown for her shift, the USB drive secure in her bag, Lily felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The sensation that life was about to change. After so long serving in the background, she might finally have the chance to be heard. The week leading up to the Reynolds dinner party was the longest of Lily's life. Between shifts at Le Ciel, she practiced relentlessly, her fingers moving over her apartment piano's keys until the early hours of the morning. She had submitted her Juilliard recordings with a mixture of hope and terror, but this upcoming performance felt even more critical. Playing live for actual faculty members, people who could influence her acceptance, was an opportunity she had never imagined possible. "You seem distracted today," Thomas commented as they folded napkins before the Thursday lunch service. "Everything okay?" Lily hadn't told any of her co-workers about the recordings or the upcoming performance. It felt too fragile to share, as if speaking about it might cause the whole thing to disappear. "I'm fine," she said. "Just tired." "You're always tired," he replied with a grin. "But usually not this quiet." "Spill it, Chen." Lily hesitated, then decided a partial truth wouldn't hurt. "I applied to Juilliard again. The music school," she added when Thomas looked blank. "Oh, right, piano." He nodded. "When do you find out?" "Not for weeks. But I have a—" She paused, unsure how to describe it. "A sort of audition this weekend." "Informal but important." Thomas raised his eyebrows. "That's huge." "You need the day off? I can cover your Sunday brunch shift." The offer caught Lily by surprise. She hadn't even thought about asking for time off. The dinner at the Reynolds was Saturday evening and she was scheduled for Sunday morning. "That would actually help a lot," she admitted. "Are you sure?" "Consider it done. You covered for me during the holidays. Besides," he shrugged, "someone from this place should make it big. Might as well be you." By Saturday evening, Lily's nerves were so frayed that she nearly called Diane to cancel. Standing in front of her small mirror, she scrutinized her outfit for the 20th time. She'd spent nearly an entire day's tips on a simple black dress from a consignment shop. It wasn't new or designer, but it was elegant enough for a dinner party, she hoped. Her phone pinged with a text from Diane. "Car will pick you up at 6:30. No need to be nervous. These are just friends who love music. Just friends who love music. Friends who happen to teach at one of the most prestigious music schools in the world. Friends who would be judging whether she belonged in their world. Nothing to be nervous about at all." The car that arrived, a sleek black town car with a uniformed driver, was another reminder of the vast difference between Lily's world and the Reynolds. As they drove uptown, she watched the neighborhoods change, growing more polished with each passing block. When she arrived at the penthouse, Diane greeted her warmly. "You look lovely," she said, leading Lily inside. "Come meet everyone before dinner." The living room held about a dozen people, dressed in the casual yet expensive way that only the truly wealthy can master. Lily felt a flutter of panic, but Zoe spotted her and bounded over. "Lily, Mom let me stay up to hear you play," she said excitedly, grabbing Lily's hand. "Come meet my piano teacher, Dr. Harlow." Before Lily could prepare herself, she was being introduced to a distinguished-looking man with silver hair. "Ah, the mysterious Waitress pianist," he said with a kind smile. "Zoe has talked of little else for weeks now. She tells me you're applying to Juilliard?" Yes, sir, Lily managed. For the third time, actually. His eyebrows rose slightly. Persistence, an essential quality in a musician. He glanced toward the piano. Will you be playing for us tonight? After dinner, Diane interjected, appearing at Lily's side with a glass of wine. Give the poor girl a chance to eat first, Gregory. As they moved to the dining room, Diane quietly pointed out two other guests. A woman in her 60s named Dr. Helen Novak, who chaired the piano department at Juilliard, and a younger man, Dr. Way, who taught music theory there. Dinner was served by a catering staff, another surreal detail for Lily, who was used to being the one serving others. The conversation flowed around music, art, and politics. Lily said little, afraid of saying the wrong thing, but she listened intently. So, Lily, Dr. Novak said suddenly, turning her sharp gaze toward her, Diane tells me you've been working as a waitress while pursuing music. That's unusual for someone of your apparent talent. The table quieted, all eyes turning to Lily. She took a small sip of wine to steady herself. Not everyone has the luxury of pursuing art full-time, she said simply. I was at Manus for 3 years but had to leave when I couldn't afford the tuition anymore. I've been working and applying to programs with better scholarship opportunities since then. Dr. Novak's expression was unreadable. And what would you do with a Juilliard education if admitted? It was the kind of question that might have intimidated Lily in the past. But after years of serving wealthy patrons who looked through her rather than at her, she found herself answering honestly. I'd use it to play. To really play, not just practice in a tiny apartment after double shifts. She met Dr. Novak's eyes. Music isn't just what I do, it's who I am. Even when I'm carrying plates of food, I'm hearing Chopin in my head. I deserve the chance to find out how good I can be. A small silence followed before Robert Reynolds cleared his throat. I think we're all eager to hear just how good you already are, Lily. Shall we move to the living room? As the guests settled in couches and chairs around the piano, Lily took a moment to center herself. She had selected 3 pieces for tonight, a Bach prelude, Beethoven's Pathétique Sonata, and Debussy's Clair de Lune, a mix of technical skill and emotional depth. The apartment fell silent as she sat at the piano. For a heartbeat, doubt crept in. These people were used to concert halls and professional performances. But as her fingers touched the keys and Bach's intricate patterns began to flow, the familiar transformation happened. The room, the people, even her own anxieties disappeared. There was only music. She moved from Bach to Beethoven without pause, feeling rather than thinking as the powerful chords of the sonata filled the room. The piano responded to her touch as if it knew her, the Steinway's rich tones bringing depth to every note. When she finished the Beethoven, she allowed herself a quick glance at her audience. They sat motionless, their faces showing the rapt attention that musicians live for. Dr. Novak leaned forward slightly, her critical expression replaced by something like curiosity. Lily began the Debussy, letting the gentle, flowing melody wash over the room. Clair de Lune had been her grandmother's favorite. She had played it at her funeral, hands shaking with grief, and now played it with all the emotion of that memory. As the final notes faded into silence, Lily kept her hands on the keys, not yet ready to break the spell. Then from behind her came the sound of a single person clapping, joined quickly by others until the small apartment filled with applause. She turned to see Zoe beaming at her, Dr. Harlow nodding appreciatively, and most surprisingly, Dr. Novak approaching the piano. You weren't properly trained, the older woman said, but there was no criticism in her tone. Your technique shows some unconventional choices. Lily felt her heart sink slightly, but Dr. Novak wasn't finished. But there's something authentic in your playing that can't be taught, raw talent shaped by genuine passion. She tilted her head, studying Lily. Why Juilliard? With your circumstances, wouldn't a full scholarship elsewhere be more practical? Because Juilliard is the best, Lily answered without hesitation. And I've spent enough of my life settling for what's practical, rather than what I truly want. Dr. Novak's stern face softened into the ghost of a smile. Well, we don't make admissions decisions at dinner parties, Ms. Chen, but I look forward to reviewing your application, personally. The evening continued with other guests asking to hear specific pieces, some of which Lily knew and played from memory, others she had to politely decline. Throughout it all, she noticed Dr. Novak watching her with that same curious expression. As the party began to wind down around 10:30, Lily prepared to leave. She had the Sunday brunch shift off thanks to Thomas, but Monday's lunch service would come early. "You were wonderful," Diane said as they waited for the car to arrive. Everyone was impressed. "Thank you," Lily replied, still dazed by the evening. "For everything. I don't know how to repay you." "You already have," Diane said, glancing back toward the living room where Zoe was showing something to Dr. Harlow on the piano. "My daughter has practiced every day this week. She's never done that before." As Lily was about to leave, Dr. Wei approached. He was younger than the others, probably in his early 40s, with an energetic manner. "Ms. Chen, before you go, we have a situation at the school. One of our accompanists for the vocal program has taken a leave of absence for health reasons. We need someone to fill in, starting next week. It's paid, not much, but it's something. Dr. Novak suggested you might be interested." Lily stared at him, unable to process what he was offering. "But I'm not a student there." "Consider it an extended audition," he said with a smile. "3 afternoons a week working with the vocal students. Dr. Novak seems to think you'd be a refreshing addition." The car ride back to Brooklyn passed in a blur. Lily's mind raced with possibilities. A paid position at Juilliard, even a temporary one, would mean cutting back hours at Le Ciel. It would mean stepping into the world she had dreamed of for so long. And perhaps most importantly, it would mean being seen, truly seen as the musician she had always been. As she unlocked the door to her tiny apartment, her phone pinged with an email notification. It was from Dr. Wei, with details about the accompanist position and paperwork to complete. It was real. It was happening. Lily sat at her piano, the faithful old upright that had been her only musical outlet for so long, and played a few notes of Clair de Lune. They sounded different somehow, as if the piano itself knew that everything was about to change. For the first time in years, Lily allowed herself to feel something dangerous. Hope. Lily stood outside Juilliard's imposing glass entrance on a crisp Monday afternoon, clutching her folder of sheet music. Students streamed past her, instrument cases slung across their shoulders, chatting and laughing with the easy confidence of people who belonged there. She took a deep breath and pushed through the doors. The lobby bustled with activity, musicians tuning instruments in corners, dancers stretching on benches, actors rehearsing lines. This was the world she had been trying to enter for years, and now, thanks to Dr. Wei's offer, she had a temporary passport. She checked the email on her phone again. Room 412, Vocal Studies Department, 1 p.m. Following the signs, she made her way to the 4th floor. The hallway was lined with practice rooms, each one filled with the sound of someone perfecting their craft. Piano, violin, cello, voice, all blending together into a chaotic symphony that somehow still sounded beautiful. Room 412 was larger than the others, with a grand piano positioned near tall windows overlooking the Lincoln Center Plaza. A woman in her 50s was arranging sheet music on a desk when Lily entered. "You must be Lily Chen," the woman said, looking up. "I'm Professor Garcia, Vocal Department Coordinator. Dr. Wei told me you'd be joining us." She gestured to the piano. "We have 6 students coming in today for their coaching sessions. You'll be accompanying them on their performance pieces." Lily nodded, trying to hide her nerves. "I've done some accompanying before, but not professionally." Professor Garcia smiled. "That's all right. Dr. Novak speaks highly of your sight-reading abilities. And frankly, we're in a bind with Jim out sick. Just follow the students' leads and you'll be fine." Before Lily could respond, the door opened and a young man entered carrying a folder similar to Lily's. "Ah, Anthony," Professor Garcia said. "This is Lily Chen, our new accompanist." Anthony is preparing for his graduate recital. He'll be starting with Schubert's Winter Reise cycle today. Anthony gave Lily a quick once-over, his expression slightly skeptical. "Nice to meet you. Have you played Schubert before?" "Some," Lily answered honestly. "But I'm a quick study." He handed her his sheet music with the air of someone who expected disappointment. "We'll start with Gute Nacht." As Lily took her place at the piano and glanced over the music, the familiar calm of performance began to settle over her. She'd played plenty of Schubert, though not this particular piece. The patterns were familiar, though, and the emotional landscape of the music immediately clear. She nodded to Anthony and began to play the haunting opening. Within moments, she could feel him relax as he realized she could handle the music. His tenor voice filled the room with the melancholy winter journey, and Lily found herself responding to his interpretation, adjusting her playing to support his phrasing. When they finished the piece, Anthony looked at her with newfound respect. That was really good. You picked up on all my tempo changes. You telegraphed them clearly, she replied. Shall we try the next one? By the end of the hour, they had worked through 4 songs, with Professor Garcia occasionally offering suggestions to Anthony. When he left, he gave Lily a genuine smile. See you Wednesday? I'll be here, she promised. The rest of the afternoon followed a similar pattern. Each student arrived with different music and different expectations, but by the end of each session, Lily had earned their respect. A soprano working on Mozart, a mezzo preparing for an opera audition, a baritone struggling with a contemporary piece, Lily adapted to each, finding the core of the music and supporting their voices. The last student was a young woman named Grace, who arrived looking harried and apologetic. I'm so sorry I'm late, she said breathlessly. My dance class ran over and then I couldn't find my music. She stopped abruptly, staring at Lily. Wait, don't I know you? Lily looked more closely at the girl and recognition dawned. Le Ciel, you were there with your parents last month. Table 23 near the window. Grace's eyes widened. That's it. You're the waitress. I remember because my dad was being so rude about the wine and you were so patient. She tilted her head. What are you doing here? Before Lily could answer, Professor Garcia interjected. Ms. Chen is our new accompanist, Grace, and you're already 10 minutes late for your session. Grace had the grace to look embarrassed. Right. Sorry. She handed Lily her music, a challenging Puccini aria, and took her position. As they worked through the piece, Lily could feel Grace's curious glances. When their session ended, Grace lingered while Professor Garcia spoke with Lily about the Wednesday schedule. That's all for today, the professor said finally. You did well, especially for your first day. I'll see you on Wednesday. As Lily gathered her things, Grace approached. So, how did you go from taking my dad's order to playing at Juilliard? That's quite a career change, Lily smiled. It's not really a change. I've always been a pianist who happens to wait tables, not the other way around. Grace considered this. That's actually pretty cool. Like a secret identity. Not so secret anymore, Lily replied. I should go. I have a dinner shift tonight. You're still working at the restaurant? I have bills to pay, Lily said with a shrug. This position is just part-time. Grace nodded slowly. Well, for what it's worth, you're way better than the last accompanist. He always rushed the tempo on that middle section. It was a small compliment, but it warmed Lily as she left the building. She had survived her first day at Juilliard, not as a student but as a professional musician. It wasn't exactly how she'd imagined entering these hallowed halls, but it was a start. The contrast between her afternoon at Juilliard and her evening shift at Le Ciel couldn't have been more stark. One moment she was bringing Schubert to life on a concert grand. The next she was reciting the evening's specials to impatient diners. Yet somehow the work felt different now. Each time she approached a table, she carried with her the knowledge that she had spent the afternoon doing what she loved, what she was meant to do. You're smiling, Thomas commented as they refilled bread baskets in the kitchen. The audition went well. It wasn't exactly an audition, Lily said. They offered me a job as an accompanist, part-time just until their regular guy comes back. Thomas grinned. Look at you with one foot already in the door. Next thing you know, you'll be quitting this place to go on tour. Hardly, Lily laughed. I'm still just filling in, and it doesn't pay enough to quit here. Details, he dismissed with a wave. The point is, you played for those fancy music people and they liked you enough to hire you. That's huge. It was huge, Lily realized. For years, she had been knocking on Juilliard's door with application after application. Now she was inside, if only in a small way. The next 2 weeks fell into a new rhythm. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at Juilliard. The rest of the week at Le Ciel. She'd managed to adjust her restaurant schedule, though it meant working more night shifts and weekends. The exhaustion was worth it. With each session at Juilliard, Lily grew more comfortable. The students began to request her specifically, appreciating her intuitive understanding of how to support their performances. Professor Garcia started to give her more responsibility, asking her opinion on students' progress and occasionally leaving her to run sessions alone. Dr. Novak appeared from time to time, silently observing from the back of the room before disappearing again without comment. Lily tried not to let the woman's presence rattle her, though it was hard not to feel like she was still being evaluated. On a rainy Friday afternoon, nearly 3 weeks after she'd started at Juilliard, Lily was packing up after her last session when Dr. Novak finally approached her directly. "You've adjusted well to our program," she said without preamble. "Thank you," Lily replied, unsure what else to say. "Jim has decided to extend his leave through the end of the semester. We'll need someone to continue in this position." Dr. Novak's piercing gaze fixed on Lily. "Professor Garcia speaks highly of your work with the students." Lily's heart quickened. "I'd be happy to continue." "Good. The pay will remain the same, but the hours would increase to include Tuesdays and Thursdays as well." Dr. Novak paused. "I understand you're still working at that restaurant." "Yes, I have to make rent." Dr. Novak nodded thoughtfully. "A practical concern, certainly." She seemed to be deliberating something. "Have you received a response to your application yet?"
"Not yet," Lily said.
"They said decisions would be sent out next week." "I see." Dr. Novak adjusted her glasses. "Well, I should tell you that the committee has been discussing your situation. Your background is unorthodox, but your talent is evident." Was this a hint? Lily couldn't tell, and Dr. Novak's expression revealed nothing. "Whatever the outcome," the older woman continued, "I believe you should be preparing for your future as a serious musician. Your current schedule is not sustainable if you wish to develop your own repertoire." Before Lily could respond, Dr. Novak handed her an envelope. "Look this over. It may be of interest." With that, she left, her brisk footsteps echoing down the hallway. Lily opened the envelope to find information about a teaching assistant position in the piano department, a position usually reserved for graduate students. It would offer a small stipend, but more importantly, it came with access to practice rooms, master classes, and a partial tuition waiver if she were accepted as a student. It was a lifeline, not enough to quit Le Ciel entirely, but enough to cut back significantly. And it suggested that her application might actually be successful. That evening, as she served plates of overpriced salmon to oblivious diners, Lily felt as though she were moving through a dream. The conversations around her, the demands for more wine, the complaints about undercooked steak, all of it seemed to be happening at a distance. "Ms. Chen?" Lily turned to find Diane Reynolds standing beside her, elegant as always in a simple black dress. "Mrs. Reynolds, are you dining with us tonight?" "No, actually. I came to find you." Diane smiled. "I hope you don't mind. Robert called the restaurant to check when you'd be working." "Is everything all right?" Lily asked, concerned. "Everything's fine." "Better than fine, actually." Diane glanced around the bustling restaurant. "Do you have a break soon?" "I have some news you might want to hear." Lily checked her watch. "I can take 15 minutes now. There's a small staff lounge in the back." The lounge was little more than a closet with a table and a few chairs, but it was quiet. Lily led Diane there, curious and slightly anxious. "I've just come from a board meeting at Juilliard," Diane began once they were seated. "Robert mentioned your name came up during the scholarship discussions." Lily's heart nearly stopped. "Scholarship discussions?" Diane nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "It seems Dr. Novak has been quite impressed with your work. She made a rather passionate case for creating a special scholarship for non-traditional students with exceptional talent." The world seemed to tilt slightly. "A scholarship for me?" "Nothing is official yet," Diane cautioned. "The committee still has to vote next week, but Robert says it looks very promising." Lily struggled to find words. After years of rejection and deferred dreams, after countless double shifts and late-night practice sessions in her tiny apartment, after being invisible to so many people in this very restaurant, could it really be happening? "I don't know what to say," she finally managed. "You and your family have changed my life." Diane reached across the table and squeezed Lily's hand. "No, dear. You did that yourself. We just provided a piano and a few introductions. The rest, the talent, the persistence, the courage to keep trying, that was all you." When Diane left, Lily returned to her tables in a daze. For the first time in years, the future wasn't just something to endure, but something to anticipate. A door that had seemed forever locked was finally, improbably, beginning to open. Le Ciel was hosting its annual charity gala. an extravagant event that brought together the wealthiest patrons and most influential figures in New York society. The restaurant had been transformed, with crystal chandeliers adding extra sparkle to the already opulent space. Waitstaff in crisp black and white moved efficiently between kitchen and dining room, serving elaborate hors d'oeuvres and keeping champagne glasses filled. Lily adjusted her bow tie, a special addition to the uniform for gala night, and checked her watch. 6 months had passed since she'd started working at Juilliard. 5 months since she'd received her acceptance letter and scholarship offer. Her life had changed dramatically, yet here she was, still serving the city's elite. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," Thomas said, sidling up beside her with an empty tray. "Just nervous," Lily admitted. "It's a big crowd tonight." What she didn't say was that for the first time, she would be attending this gala not just as staff, but as part of the entertainment. Dr. Novak had arranged it, a special performance by a Juilliard student, a gesture of thanks to the donors whose contributions funded scholarships like Lily's. Only her manager knew about the arrangement. "Heard some big shots from Lincoln Center are here tonight," Thomas continued. "Maybe you can slip them your demo." He winked, still treating her rising music career as a long-shot dream despite the evidence of her progress. "Something like that," Lily replied with a small smile. The dinner service proceeded with its usual choreographed precision. Lily moved between her assigned tables with practiced efficiency, taking orders, delivering food, refilling wine glasses. She recognized several faces from Juilliard's donor events, though none seemed to recognize her in her waitress uniform. It was as if she were invisible again, the talent that had impressed them in concert halls erased by her server's attire. At 8:45, her manager appeared at her side. "Time for your break," he said with a meaningful look. "The small dressing room is ready." Lily nodded and slipped away. In the tiny staff room that had been cleared for her use, a garment bag hung on the back of the door. Inside was a simple but elegant black dress, another gift from Diane, who had insisted Lily couldn't perform in her waitress uniform. As she changed, Lily's mind raced through the pieces she would play. Dr. Novak had helped her select a program that showcased her range: Bach's Italian Concerto, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat, and Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. 15 minutes, 3 pieces, a lifetime of preparation. A knock at the door. 5 minutes, Ms. Chen. The event coordinator's voice was clipped, professional. Lily took a deep breath, smoothed her dress, and opened the door. The hallway leading back to the dining room seemed longer than usual, each step carrying her closer to a moment she had imagined countless times but never quite like this. At the entrance to the dining room, she paused. The lights had been dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the grand piano that had been brought in specially for the evening. The restaurant manager stepped to a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, as part of tonight's charity gala benefiting the Arts Education Fund, we are honored to present a special performance by Juilliard Scholarship recipient Lily Chen." A polite smattering of applause followed as Lily walked to the piano. From the corner of her eye, she could see Thomas staring open-mouthed from his position by the kitchen door. At a table near the front, Diane and Robert Reynolds watched with encouraging smiles, Zoe beside them practically bouncing with excitement. The room quieted as Lily took her seat at the piano. For a moment she felt a flutter of panic. These people had seen her carrying plates, taking orders, serving them day after day. Would they see her differently now? Could they? Then her fingers touched the keys, and as always, the music took over. The precise, intricate patterns of Bach flowed from her hands, filling the room with ordered beauty. She moved seamlessly into the Chopin, the nocturne's dreamy melody casting a spell over the now silent room. As she played, Lily caught glimpses of her audience. The stock market executive who always sent back his salmon was watching with genuine surprise. A woman who had once snapped her fingers to get Lily's attention now leaned forward, captivated. Near the back, her fellow servers had paused their duties to listen, Tomas giving her a thumbs up when he caught her eye. The Gershwin was last, bold, distinctly American, blending classical technique with jazz rhythms. Lily poured everything into it. All the years of working double shifts, all the late nights practicing in her tiny apartment, all the rejections and disappointments and moments of doubt. The piece built to its jubilant conclusion, and Lily's fingers struck the final chords with triumphant energy. For one suspended moment, silence filled the room. Then applause erupted, Not the polite, obligatory kind, but genuine, enthusiastic appreciation. People rose to their feet, champagne glasses temporarily forgotten. As Lily stood to acknowledge the applause, she spotted Dr. Novak at a back table. The older woman's usually stern expression softened into something like pride. Beside her sat the Juilliard president and several board members, all applauding with evident approval. The restaurant manager returned to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, Lily Chen. Ms. Chen is not only a talented pianist and Juilliard scholarship recipient, but many of you may recognize her as part of our waitstaff here at Le Ciel." A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd as people turned to their companions. "The waitress? Our waitress?" Lily heard the whispers, saw the double takes and dawning recognition. "Ms. Chen has been serving our patrons for 4 years while pursuing her musical education," the manager continued. "Tonight marks her final evening with us, as she embarks on her full-time studies at Juilliard." This was news to Lily. She had planned to reduce her hours, certainly, but hadn't discussed leaving entirely. Before she could process this unexpected announcement, Robert Reynolds approached the microphone. "If I may add something," he said, his authoritative voice commanding immediate attention. "The scholarship that Ms. Chen received was created specifically to support exceptional talents like hers, musicians who have demonstrated not only extraordinary ability but also uncommon perseverance and character." He gestured toward Lily. "My family had the privilege of meeting Ms. Chen when our daughter took an interest in her piano playing. What began as a chance encounter has blossomed into something remarkable. The Juilliard board has unanimously voted to make the non-traditional Student Excellence Scholarship a permanent offering, ensuring that future artists like Lily will have the support they need to pursue their dreams." More applause followed, along with raised glasses and congratulatory nods. Lily stood by the piano, overwhelmed. This wasn't just about her anymore. Her struggle had created a path for others. The formal portion of the evening concluded, and the gala shifted into its social phase. Lily found herself surrounded by people who had never really seen her before tonight. Patrons who suddenly remembered her name, who wanted to discuss music, who offered connections and opportunities. Pretty wild, huh? Thomas appeared at her side, carrying a tray of desserts. "1 minute you're refilling water glasses, the next you're the star of the show." Lily smiled. "I'm the same person either way." "Yeah, but now they know it," he said, nodding toward the crowd. "Anyway, is it true? You're leaving us?" Before Lily could answer, her manager approached. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." He handed her an envelope. "This is your final paycheck, including tonight, plus a little something extra. Consider it a graduation present from Le Ciel." "I don't understand," Lily said, confused. "I didn't give notice. It's been taken care of," he said with a meaningful glance toward the Reynolds table. "Your scholarship has been supplemented. A private donation to cover living expenses so you can focus on your studies." He smiled more warmly than she'd ever seen from him. "You don't need this job anymore, Lily." As the manager walked away, Thomas shook his head in disbelief. "So that's it? You're trading this glamorous food service career for boring old Juilliard?" His teasing tone couldn't quite hide his genuine happiness for her. "Looks that way," Lily replied, still processing the turn of events. "Well, don't forget the little people when you're selling out Carnegie Hall." Dr. Novak appeared then, as if materializing from the crowd. "Ms. Chen, a word." Thomas took the hint and disappeared with his tray. Dr. Novak guided Lily to a quieter corner. "Your performance was satisfactory," she said, which Lily had learned was high praise from the exacting professor, though the Gershwin could use more restraint in the bridge section. "I'll work on it," Lily promised. "See that you do." Dr. Novak's severe expression softened slightly. "You begin as my teaching assistant on Monday. 8 a.m. sharp. We'll need to prepare for the winter showcase, and I expect you to be ready for master classes by spring term." "I will be," Lily assured her. "Good." Dr. Novak hesitated, then added, "You've proven something important. Ms. Chen, talent without opportunity withers, but it never truly dies. Remember that when you're teaching your own students someday." As the evening wound down, Lily found herself standing near the piano again, running her fingers lightly over the keys. The restaurant had emptied except for staff cleaning up and a few lingering patrons finishing their drinks. "May I join you?" Diane Reynolds asked, approaching with Zoe. Of course, Lily said, moving over on the piano bench. Play something with me, Zoe asked eagerly. The Mozart duet we've been practicing. Lily smiled. Your mom told you about my news? That you got the special scholarship and don't have to be a waitress anymore? Yes, Zoe's excitement was contagious. Now you can be a real pianist all the time. I've always been a real pianist, Lily said gently. But now everyone else can see it too. She positioned Zoe's hands on the keyboard, and together they began the simple Mozart duet they'd worked on during Lily's visits to the Reynolds home. The girl had improved significantly, her dedication inspired by Lily's example. As they played, Lily glanced around the now quiet restaurant, the place where she had spent so many hours being invisible, being overlooked, being just another person in the background of other people's lives. Tonight that had changed. Tonight they had finally seen her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, full-time studies, teaching responsibilities, performances, a world of expectations. But for now, in this moment, Lily simply played, the music flowing from her fingers as it always had, whether anyone was listening or not. The simple duet came to an end, and Zoe looked up at her with admiration. Do you think I could be like you someday? Lily thought about all she had endured to reach this point. The double shifts, the tiny apartment, the rejections, the years of playing for no one but herself. She thought about the scholarship that would now bear her name, opening doors for others like her. You'll be yourself, she told Zoe, and that's even better. From the piano bench, Lily could see out the restaurant's windows to the glittering city beyond. Somewhere out there was her tiny Brooklyn apartment with its faithful old upright piano, the instrument that had kept her dream alive through all the hard years. Tomorrow she would begin packing for her move to student housing. Tomorrow she would officially become a Juilliard student, a teaching assistant, a musician whose talent had been recognized and valued. Tomorrow her new life would begin in earnest. But tonight, for just a little longer, she would stay here in this moment of transition, no longer invisible, no longer overlooked, finally seen for who she had been all along.